Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports.
We discuss the legacies of Peyton Manning and Ronda Rousey after tough losses.
Plus, our hockey experts pick the best lineup from the past 10 Hall of Fame inductions, and we pick the one piece of sports memorabilia we would want if it were free.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now.
Welcome to this episode of One-on-One Sports. I'm Connor DelPrete.
And I'm Ben Greenberg. You know it's not the NFL playoffs yet because Brady beat Eli this weekend. Here are your starting five.
What was supposed to be a historic day for Peyton Manning turned sour quickly. Manning broke the career passing yards record previously held by Brett Favre, but in the third quarter of Sunday's loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos benched the former MVP. Manning was 5 of 20, including 4 interceptions and a quarterback rating of 0. So is Manning's poor play tarnishing his legacy, and should the Broncos continue benching him?
No and no. It's not tarnishing his legacy. No, they shouldn't bench him. Now it turns out he's hurt. After all, he was basically playing on one foot. The guy had an incredible career. Maybe he's downtrending a little, but his team is 7-2, right? This isn't some terrible quarterback playing on a terrible team. It's a great quarterback playing on a great team.
Right. And I agree. This is no indication of the vintage Peyton that we've known to grow and love. First, with the injuries. He's been hobbling all year, barely being able to walk, apparently, the past couple weeks. Yep. The running game is horrendous. It's 28th in the league. That puts way too much pressure on a 39-year-old man who has defied the age curve of quarterbacks for 5 years now. And so there has to be a point where great quarterbacks decline. Look at Dan Marino. His last three seasons in the league, 11 interceptions, 15, 17. Great quarterbacks decline at some point. This just happens to be his time.
And it's not even like he's declining at some incredible rate this season. His team's 7-2. He's been good.
Yeah.
Cam Newton had quite a lengthy touchdown dance this past Sunday, and he led his undefeated Panthers over the Titans. In response to some Tennessee criticism, Newton said, quote, "I'm a firm believer that if you don't like it, keep me out of the end zone." Connor, did you have a problem with what Cam did, the long celebration, the comments?
I didn't have a problem until it was a problem, Ben. And by that, I mean this is a lot like the Jose Batista situation with the bat flipping.
Right.
This is a game of entertainment, and the players are entertainers, and Cam Newton is one of the best of them. I'll give him that. The touchdown dances, they get the crowd excited. But in this case, he danced, which was fine. But then the ref came and tried to hold him back, and he kept dancing.
Right.
It shows a sign of immaturity and disrespect, and ruins the integrity of the game.
First of all, he's on an undefeated team. This individual win is not some huge win. The game wasn't even close. You shouldn't be dancing now. Win a couple Super Bowls first, and then then you have the right to act like that. But first of all, the reason why I defended Batista's bat flip is because it was genuine. It was literally just raw excitement. This was a choreographed dance.
And it was clear that he was taunting the linebacker when the ref was holding him back. It's
exactly.
childish.
I don't have a problem if it's genuine and real.
Right.
But when it's phony and choreographed, that's too much for me.
Exactly. Unlike Newton's NFL playoff chances, the college football playoff chances for teams in the Pac-12 are dwindling. After several upsets this past weekend, there are no teams left in the Pac-12 with less than 2 losses. Coincidence or not, the Pac-12 is currently one of 2 major conferences with a 9-game conference schedule. Right. So should the Pac-12 consider reducing the amount of conference games to 8 potentially?
Sure. I mean, why not? It can't hurt. But
it couldn't hurt.
I really think that people are giving the Pac-12 a bad rep. They're saying, oh, no one's good. They all have 2 losses. I mean, that doesn't mean they're not good. That means they're evenly matched, right? They could all be great and beating each other up. They could all be bad and lose to each other. But it just means they're evenly matched. It's not like it's a bad conference.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Pac-12 conference prides themselves on saying that no one plays a tougher conference schedule than us. Yeah. But that's actually kicking them out of some of these playoff games. It's come back to bite them.
Right.
When I look at this conference, there are no cupcake games, really.
No.
When you look at the SEC, there are the Vanderbilts, the Kentuckys. There's maybe Colorado and Oregon State potentially, but the rest of the teams are solid top to bottom, and that's come back to bite them, and now they're going to be missing out on playoff chances and representing the Pac-12 in the big games.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it could hurt to cut the number of conference games they play. The Golden State Warriors, defending NBA champs, remain undefeated through 11 games. The star of the show and last year's MVP, Steph Curry, leads the league with 33 points per game. In the young NBA season, what has been more impressive, Golden State as a whole being 11-0 or Steph Curry's incredible start?
Clearly Steph Curry. Yeah. I think he, at some points this year so far, has been single-handedly the reason why they are still undefeated and why they are so good. Look, this guy, if the season ended right now, which I know it's early, but he would have the highest player efficiency rating of any player in the history of the NBA by 4 points. He's made more threes than 2 entire teams have. He has made 2 of the most ridiculous shots I've seen in this season so far already, and I'm just excited to see see it whenever he touches the ball.
Honestly, I agree with you. Steph Curry is the more exciting tidbit here. And what it really points to is that the NBA regular season, especially at the beginning, means so little that individual players are more notable stories than teams as a whole, right? I mean, we're basically just waiting for the finals to be Cleveland and Golden State, right? It's not like this is, it's not like, oh my gosh, Golden State is having a year, guys. Who's surprised about that?
60 more games.
Of course not. What's cool is watching Steph Curry highlights, and it really is incredible.
It absolutely is. In an upset this past weekend that shocked UFC and casual sports fans alike, former UFC champion Ronda Rousey was knocked out by Holly Holm in the second round of the UFC 193 championship. Now that Rousey's era of profession is over, how should we define her legacy?
Well, it's tough to define her legacy at this age. She's 28, and as she's said in interviews that she's only fought 13 times, so how can you really define anything at this point yet? But the loss certainly hurts. Because, I mean, you talk about Floyd Mayweather, there is nothing more important to that guy than his zero. That is everything to him. His comeback for anything you can throw at him is, I never lost. Ronda now no longer has that.
And Ben, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit and say that sometimes an individual's legacy transcends past just their win and loss record. Okay. And for Ronda Rousey, I had never heard of a UFC fighter before Rousey, essentially.
Yeah, me too.
She was this hardcore, or still is this hardcore female fighter who came at a time when women in sports were making splashes. Serena Williams was kicking it on the tennis courts. The women's soccer team was captivating America with their World Cup victory, and Rousey was this woman who just refused to lose. And so I think she brought women's sports to the forefront along with those two other teams and players. But this has to be the worst nightmare for the UFC. Her losing is the worst nightmare because now it shows she's not immortal.
I agree with you, and I wanted to let you go there because I think you make a great point that Rousey has put women's sports in general really on the map again. People are more excited to watch her fight than any of the men's UFC.
Exactly.
So that in itself is awesome. That's a legacy.
Exactly. Before we go to our next block, there's some extremely important events that need to be talked about. In the past 2 weeks, we have experienced extremes of trauma, disbelief, outrage, and loss.
Last Friday, terrorists killed 130 civilians in Paris and left hundreds more wounded. As we mourn the loss of these innocent lives, let me quote Jon Stewart in his first show back after the September 11th terrorist attacks. He said, quote, "Any fool can destroy, but rebuilding, that's extraordinary." We're going to get back to this show, and it's going to be fun and funny, and it's going to be what it always was, unquote. I thought that was a good way to put it.
Finally, we here at Elon University consider ourselves to be a family. The bond that is created among classmates, friends, organization members, and all fellow students is a bond that is not easily broken. This bond is stronger than ever when we lose one of our own.
Last Wednesday, our Elon community was rocked by tragic news. Junior Dimitri Allison passed away. Dimitri was a management major here and a wide receiver on Elon University's football team. Most importantly, he was a young man who touched many people's lives. We send our deepest condolences to the Allison family.
We here at 101 Sports are more than just a group of people who like sports. We're a family. And I speak for everyone at 101 Sports when I say we pray for Paris and we say rest in peace, Dimitri Allison. Welcome back to 101 Sports. The Kansas City Royals may still be celebrating their victory, but there is work to be done for many of the other teams this offseason. Seated beside me are MLB experts Stu Semonite and Tim Kraus, who have a couple of trade scenarios that we will review. One of our analysts will propose their trade, and the other will respond with whether the team should take the deal and who would win that trade. So, Tim, let's start with you. What is your trade for this offseason?
So my trade is that the Cleveland Indians acquire first baseman Freddie Freeman and cash from the Atlanta Braves for 4 prospects. Outfielder Bradley Zimmer, left-handed pitcher Rob Kaminsky, shortstop Eric Gonzalez, and catching prospect Simeon Lucas. So the deal from the Indians' perspective is when I look at this Indians roster, what stands out to me is their starting pitching. Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco, and Danny Salazar at the top of the rotation is fantastic. When you look at the Mets last year, you see that a good pitching rotation can propel you into contention. I think they're one bat away. I think Freddie Freeman would be a great addition to the team. He'd be a lineup in the middle of their lineup. You can put him at first base. You can move Carlos Santana from first base to DH. So that will improve their lineup both offensively and defensively. So that would be great for the Indians. From the Braves' perspective now, this is a team that is in full-on rebuild mode. They're not going to
Couldn't
compete in
agree more.
2016.
Yep.
They've already traded Andrelton Simmons. So if you can get something of significant value for Freddie Freeman, why not trade him this offseason? And this trade would give them something of significant value. Bradley Zimmer is the 26th overall prospect in baseball, according to Baseball America. He would be a really good addition to them in the future. His estimated arrival time is 2017. The next player I have is Kaminsky. He's a left-handed pitcher. He's also a top 100 prospect. He will add to the young stockpile of arms Atlanta has, which will help their system. And then I have Eric Gonzalez, who is a shortstop. He is ready to compete for a roster spot right now. And they just traded Andrelton Simmons, so
with
he
Simmons
could be a
gone.
replacement.
Perfect.
And then I've also added a catching prospect, which will entice the Braves to give up some cash to help with the contract.
Okay. All right, Sue, what do you think?
I think with that, the Braves definitely got to take this deal. Granted, Freeman is a great player, but great players want to be in places where they can win right off the bat. And Freeman would want this to go through. And even Atlanta, even though it's a short-term loss, they would get something back. So in the long-term, in their rebuilding.
I like it as well. Freeman wants to be on a contender. The Braves are in rebuilding mode. Like you said, they just lost Simmons. These prospects build them for the future. So, Stu, let's move on to your trade. What do you have?
All right, I got a big trade, too. I have the Red Sox trading Dustin Pedroia, prospect Andrew Benintendi, and prospect Sam Travis to Oakland for Sonny Gray. And the reason I say this is because the Red Sox were the 4th highest scoring team in the league last year. So as far as the bats go, they don't need it. And the 2 prospects I threw in, Benintendi is the Red Sox 5th ranked prospect, but he's a center fielder mostly, and he's in the outfield. The Red Sox have a pretty stacked outfield with Jackie Bradley Jr. and with Mookie Betts, and they have a couple other guys in Pawtucket, AAA, who are ready to go. The other guy I threw in was Sam Travis, who's a first baseman in AA Portland. And what the Red Sox really need to do here is just get a starting pitcher, and Sonny Gray is a great opportunity for them, because they already went out, they got Greg Kimbrell, and they have a great they have a great hitting, they just need to get great starting pitchers.
So I think the Oakland A's would have to decline your trade, and here's why. Sonny Gray is 26 years old. He's improved in every single year he's been in the big leagues, and he's under team control until 2020. So that makes him one of the most valuable assets in all of baseball. So I think they're going to want more. And I don't see the A's wanting Dustin Pedroia. Pedroia is entering his age 32 season. It's been 8 years since he's won the MVP. He's declining offensively, and he still has 6 years and $84 million left in his contract. So I don't see that getting done.
See, I like both these trades. You know, I'd like to see Sonny Gray in a Red Sox uniform, but I think the Red Sox would have to give up a little bit more for a guy like Gray. But I still like the ideas. I like the ideas. That's all the time to talk MLB offseason trade scenarios, but when we come back, my co-host Ben Greenberg travels to the ice to discuss some Hall of Fame lineups in hockey. Stay tuned.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Enroll, we say, we want you to be okay. Enroll, we say, take care of people for goodness sake.
Ben Greenberg here, back with Jared Kimble and Cam Ciesielski. Guys, let's talk some hockey. Last week, the Hockey Hall of Fame inducted its class of 2015. So in honor, Cam and Jared will draft a lineup from the last 10 Hall of Fame classes, debate which squad is better, and all pick the winner. Guys, you ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
So
let's
ready.
line
So
up the
ready.
face off. Who wants first pick here? Call it in the air.
Heads.
Heads it in.
There we
Got
go.
it.
All right. I have to go. I was questioning this. I was going Yzerman, Lidstrom. I'm going to go Lidstrom.
Okay.
I'm going to go Lidstrom. I think he's just one of the best players of all time, probably one of the best defenders of all time. I think the best, personally. Great captain, just like Yzerman. He's good on offense, good on defense. He's just good in every single category.
I can't
7
argue.
Norris trophies.
He was going to be one of my high picks, but you didn't take my first overall pick, the guy I want the most, and that's the Dominator, Dominik Hasek. This guy was so good. He could control a game, take over a game. When I'm looking at my first pick, I want my netminder to be solid, to win me some games, and Dominik Hasek is the guy to do that for me.
I like it. Next pick.
I'm totally fine with that because I can still get Patrick Waugh, and he doesn't need another goalie, so I can go back and get him at the end of the time, at the end of the round. So I'm going to go Steve Yzerman. I'm sorry, I get my top 2 picks that I want. Stevie Wonder. I know you have to agree with me this. He's one of the best captains of all time. Poise, composure. And when he was struggling at the end of his career, he turned into a defensive player, and he decided to make his game different because he's just an intelligent hockey player.
Yeah, and that was working a lot with Scotty Bowman, too. He realized that being just a purely offensive player was not going to help his team win, and so he turned around, became that defensive powerhouse. 2 Red Wings off the bat. Actually, 3 Red Wings at one point. Dominik Hasek playing some of his best hockey in Detroit. I'm going with another number 19, another center. I'm going with Joe Sakic.
Okay,
this guy led the Colorado Avalanche when they were so good with Patrick Roy in net. Great leader, great player. A lot like Yzerman, they had a lot of rivalry going on. So I'm very happy with Sakic as my number 2.
Yeah, they're basically 1 and 2 right there, the center position.
Third pick?
I gotta go Mark Messier, and I know this is sneaky, but he played left wing a couple games, and he actually played at left wing for a whole season. So I'm gonna put him at left wing. If I can't have Wayne Gretzky, I'm gonna go with his right hand man. I'm gonna go with Mark Messier. I mean, this guy had 6 cups. He was a great leader, great at scoring, and he was also a really physical player. Great on defense, which is really important to have on that first line to shut down, another good player on the other side.
No, I'm 100% with you. I'm going with one of the most explosive players ever, the Russian rocket, Pavel Bure. His career was cut short, but in his short time in the league, he was by far the best player. You watch his highlight reel, absolutely absurd. He was blowing by guys with a wooden stick, going top shelf. Incredible. I love having him on my right wing.
Although Mike Richter did stop him on a penalty shot in the
Okay,
one time. But keep going.
All
Fourth round.
To pair up with Lidstrom, I got to go Scott Stevens. I think he fits with him perfectly. Nick Lidstrom can lead that offensive strike. On the power play, he can be the catalyst. And then Scott Stevens will come in and smash the crap out of everybody. And he didn't have that bad of an offensive game either. He had 908 points throughout his career. But his ridiculous hits and his great job of just shutting down, I think that matches well with Lidstrom.
No, he was an incredible player. A very, very solid defenseman. But you left me Ron Francis. This guy is incredibly underrated.
Yeah.
He's the 4th most all-time in assists and points, and this guy is just so underrated. Great playmaker, and I need somebody to feed Bure the puck for me. Ronnie Franchise is the guy to do it.
All right, I have 2 great passers in Yzerman and Messier. Great at setting people up, so I got to get one of the best goal scorers of all time, Brett Hull.
Hold up. No, you don't. This is the 5th round. You got to take Patrick Roy.
No.
This is the 5th round. You already got 4 players here.
Well, yeah, there's 6 players. The goalie, too. 5 and the goalie.
We're not playing short-handed here.
We're not playing short-handed. So I got to go Brett Hull. He's great at finishing the puck. He never had a season less than 25 goals, and he put up 86 once. So he's going to put it in the back of the net for me when those guys set him up. I think it's perfect.
The son of NHL legend Bobby Hull, Brett Hull, made a great career for himself.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. So now I got to move to my defenseman. I don't have any defensemen yet. That's a problem. We need some. So I'm going to start with Al McGinnis. This guy had a huge slap shot from the point.
Yeah.
Great defensively, stay-at-home player, also great passer. You can't go wrong with Al McGinnis.
And he split a goaltender's mask in half, which was insane.
Really? With a puck?
Yes.
Incredible.
It was absolutely
I have not heard
crazy
that
shot. So now I have to go with my goalie, as you mentioned. And I'm fine with going Patrick Roy. No problem with that whatsoever. 4 Stanley Cups, and he did it all in the playoffs. In overtime, he was clutch. He has 151 playoff victories. That's absolutely outstanding. So even though I can't have Hasek, I'm totally fine with having Roy. And in one series, if these 2 teams face each other, I like to have him because he can stand on his feet with this one.
You know what? He's a very emotional player, though. And when he gets shelled, he starts talking to the post. He does all sorts of weird stuff. Absolutely one of the best goaltenders of all time. But there are some questions mark here. I'm going to close it out with Chris Pronger. Again, another guy who had injury trouble late in his career, but he was just so good defensively. He's a body. You can't go wrong with that.
I would have picked him, but I hate the Flyers. I can't do it. I can't do it.
All right, I'm going to give you guys each one-liner. Tell me, give me something to do with the chemistry of the team. This is a team game.
I try to fit it up so I have guys that can be playmakers and set up one goal scorer in Brett Hull, and then I match my defensive players up with each other, a shutdown defenseman with a guy that can handle the puck with Nick Lidstrom, and then Waugh is just absolutely insane in net, especially when it's down on the line. He's very clutch. So I think this team is all set together.
I think top to bottom, you have guys who were better over the course of their careers, but I've got guys who went in hot and heavy, quick NHL careers. Hot seasons. When they were at their primes, they were the best players in the NHL. Pavel Bure, obviously a great scorer. With McGinnis and Pronger on the blue line, nobody's scoring goals, and
Right.
especially with Dominic Hasek in net.
I think in their primes, Cam, your team is better, and you might win 9 out of 10, but not this game. Not tonight.
No.
That is, I give it to Jared. I think I really like the grit on this team between Scott Stevens, a guy like Mark Messier, who never really was the guy, right? Always second man to Gretzky. Even on the Rangers, he took a team that was
I got the New York heartstrings.
perhaps
Yeah, I know.
perhaps
Seriously,
talented. Brought him to the cup. Jared, I love your team. All right, we'll change the arena surface from ice to hardwood because the NBA is up next. Stay tuned.
The NBA season is not even a month old, and just like any other sport early in the season, there are always rumors and predictions that may be too early to confirm. So my NBA experts here, Chris Edwards and Alex Ofori, each have 2 overreactions that they will present, followed by why they think these scenarios won't happen. So let's start with you, Chris. What's your first overreaction?
First overreaction is Derrick Rose is going to get traded by the Bulls to some team, and I don't think that's going to happen because the Bulls have invested way too much in Derrick Rose. And granted, when they did, they had a good reason. I mean, he's a former MVP, multiple-time All-Star. Right now, he's currently second leading scorer for the Bulls, which isn't that much at 13 points.
Yeah.
But who are you actually going to trade with?
Yeah, he has struggled a little bit, obviously, with all the injuries recently. And I think this more centers around sort of him talking about free agency, moving on from the Bulls, that kind of thing. But ultimately, if they trade him, they're not going to get anything near the sort of value that they already placed in him.
They've
as
done
an
so much
organization.
to build around Derrick Rose. So I think right now it's not time to jump ship, especially this early in the year. So Alex, what's your first overreaction?
My first one is there's people out there saying that the Kings should trade DeMarcus Cousins in. While maybe Sacramento isn't the best environment for a budding star, I mean, look at him. He's a franchise centerpiece. Potentially the best center in the league right now. And a guy like that, no matter how many coaches you have to run through for him to mesh right with, and they fired the one that he did like in Malone.
Yeah.
But I think when you have a guy like that, you can't just give him up. You're never going to find the right value.
I totally agree. That is like probably one of the dumbest rumors I've ever heard. You try to trade away like literally the best center.
The center and centerpiece.
Yeah, pretty much center and centerpiece of Sacramento Kings. And honestly, he's better than DeAndre Jordan. He's better than some of the top centers that we consider to be the top centers in the
He's
league
by
right
far
now.
the best thing that team has going for them right now.
I couldn't agree more. They're 4-7. Again, just like the Bulls, it's way too early to start shipping their best stars that they've tried to at least start and build around.
They just need to build around DeMarcus Cousins. He's not the problem. They just don't have a bench to support him.
Exactly. So let's go to your second overreaction.
Second overreaction. There have been some rumors saying that Deion Waiters wants to go back to Philadelphia, and he thinks he's going to get a big contract. And I'm just like laughing, like, do you really think you deserve a contract that big with what you've been doing over the past 2 seasons? Like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
Yeah, he's in no position to be demanding a max contract right now. And while a team like Philly, I mean, yeah, they have.
Why would you? Here's the thing. Why would you want to go to Philly right
That's
now?
my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. In the whole grand scheme of things, no one in their right mind will willingly go to Philadelphia at this point, no matter how much Ja is
even from
putting
Philly's
on.
standpoint, they're trying to build for the future. What do they see in Waiters as a
Waiters
guy
your
that help
future?
them
No.
be better?
Exactly.
Than
I really want to pay $112 million for a 12-point, 40% field goal shooting person. Yeah, that's what I want to do. No.
Yeah, who fills up gifts more than he does the stat sheet. All right, second overreaction, Alex.
Mine, the New Orleans Pelicans are currently at the bottom of the Western Conference standings. So
They are.
I don't. The overreaction is that they'll finish there or out of the playoffs. I think there's still hope for the Pelicans. They've had a lot of injuries, but at the end of the day, you still have Anthony Davis there, and he still has to get completely healthy. He's been sort of forcing a little bit, pushing it early in the year, but I think as things go on, guys get healthier and work their way back into the lineup. The Pelicans look a lot
And
better.
you hit my right point. I mean, this has been an injury-little team. There are stars on this team like Anthony Davis, Quincy Poindexter has been injured. Drew Holiday's been in and out with his injuries. There's talent on this roster, but they've just been injured. That's why they're 1-9.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd rather see, and I know I'm going to see either the Lakers or possibly even Portland down the bottom.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, the Pelicans aren't a great team, but their team's much worse than them. So I think they're not going to stay at the bottom like you guys are saying.
Totally agree.
Exactly. Well, you heard it here first. If any of these situations have crossed your minds this early in the season, Chris and Alex here say you may be overacting just a little, so give it some more time. Up next, we go to the Gridiron, where Ben is with our NFL experts to give out some mid-season report cards.
Welcome back. I'm here with Mason Stalph and Connor Cummings. Guys, our semester is winding down, so grades are on everyone's mind. But this time, you two are going to be the grade A's instead of the grade D's. Hopefully a little more fun. I'll give you an NFL division and each of you gives an overall grade. I'm the department chair, though, so I'll decide whose grade is more accurate. Let's start with the AFC North.
I'm going to go with a B for the AFC North. You got two good teams and you got two bad teams. The Bengals are now 7-1 after their loss to the Houston Texans last night. And then Pittsburgh's 6-4 as well, quietly 6-4. I think they're a good team.
I mean, I give you that there are two good teams and two bad teams, but after the Bengals laying an egg against the Texans last night, and with all the injuries to the Steelers, and the Ravens and Browns single-handedly dragging this division down, I'm giving them a C.
So the thing with, I think Cleveland is going to actually make a little bit of a run towards the end of the year. Johnny Manziel has just been named the starter for the rest of the season, and he just threw for 350 yards against Pittsburgh.
Connor wins it. A B is correct because
Johnny Manziel beats me.
Okay, first of all, the Bengals are good. You can't even argue that. But the Steelers and Ravens, they're at least scary to play. You don't want to play those teams on the road. You don't. AFC West, go ahead.
I'm going to go with a B. I originally had them at an A, but with the Broncos tailing off recently and with the Raiders unable to put any consistency whatsoever, and then just a terrible Chargers team down at the bottom, I'll give them a B just because I think this is a good division, but not great.
I give them an A because I think this is the best division top to bottom in football this year. The Chargers sit at the bottom with 2-7, but Phillip Rivers is leading the league in passing yards this year. And Denver has got that amazing defense. Oakland's got an up-and-coming offense. Kansas City has rattled off 3 in a row out of nowhere.
But
I think this is a great
until Brock
division.
Osweiler proves that he can be a good quarterback, I don't think this is any more the best division in football.
He threw for 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
I still think the AFC East is a very good division. I think that's the best division. Watching the Bills and the Patriots.
I agree. Listen, you can only make one division an A, right? So we got to give this one a B. Mason, you get the point. You know what I mean? This is not the best in football. NFC East now. Go ahead.
I think the NFC East this year is the definition of mediocrity. And so for that, I'm going to give them a C. You got the Giants up top at 5-5. Then you got the Redskins and Eagles both at 4-5. And then the Cowboys without Tony Romo at 2-7. And he comes back.
If we're going to give the AFC West a B, we can't give the NFC East a C. This is mediocrity. They're just bad. This is just a bad division. Kirk Cousins could actually lead the Redskins to the playoffs this year. That's bad. They're an F for me.
They beat the bad teams and lose to the good teams. That's what a C team is.
No, this is bad.
Listen, I think C. This is great inflation. Okay, I think a C is a pretty bad team. So Connor, I'll give you I'll give you the point there. They're not an F, please. Come on, Mason. All right, NFC South. Go ahead.
Okay, the NFC South, after last year, which was a definite F.
Yeah.
This year, I'll give them a B, just because Carolina has upped their game immensely.
Yep.
The Falcons have shown up to play this year, a bit on and off, but they've still shown up to play. It's a B.
I'm going to give them a B, too. I think the Panthers are a little bit overrated. Cam Newton's a bit of a ball hog. Falcons are a good team at 6-3, and both the Saints and the Buccaneers are solid teams, not great teams. Still not sold as on the Panthers. That would have given them
at the end of the year, I don't think Cam Newton's going to be dancing.
I tend to agree with you, actually. I think the guy dances now, but at the end of the season, I don't think so. You guys obviously share that point. Both said B. That's fine. That'll do it for football. Join us after the break when Connor and I will discuss our most prized piece of sports history.
In a recent auction, the jersey that Michael Jordan wore during his final game as a Chicago Bull sold for $173,000. So people pay thousands of dollars for these memorable items that will most likely sit on their shelves, but that doesn't stop them or us for that matter. We all have that one thing we would love to have from sports history. So Ben, what is one memorable item from sports that you could pick if it were free?
I would take David Tyree's helmet from his amazing Super Bowl catch where he balanced the ball on his helmet.
Of course.
The reason why is, I was 14 years old at the time, 8th grader, and that's really the peak of being a fan, right? That's when sports is all that matters to you.
Right.
You look up to all the players and it's exciting. That to me was just an unbelievable moment in my childhood sports watching.
All right, I really like that one. That's one of the sports memories that I remember out of anything else.
Yeah.
But as an Orioles fan, I have to go with the jersey that Cal Ripken won when he broke the record for most consecutive games played. I remember sitting in the car, listening to the radio with my mom when he sat out his final game. And that was just something where my mom loved Cal Ripken, and I love Cal Ripken. And so
Right.
I would like a jersey from when he broke the record and he got 21-31. It was shown up on the warehouse.
Yep.
So a jersey from that would be awesome because that is the Iron Man, and that's something that needs to be appreciated. A guy that doesn't fill up the stat sheets with 50 home runs and take steroids and all that stuff like was happening
Yep.
during that era.
Yep.
This is a guy who just treated himself well. His physical wellness was fantastic,
Yep.
and he just never sat, and I loved it. I wish I'd like a jersey from that. So
That'd be awesome. 2 things we would love to have. Now I know what to get you for your birthday now.
thank you very
And you know
much.
what to get me, more importantly.
exactly.
Thanks for watching 101 Sports. Big shout out to our producers and crew. If you missed anything, please check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram at 101 Sports.
For everyone here at 101 Sports, thanks again for watching, and as always,
Whose side
are you on?